Okay, yeah. So there seems to be a challenge in differentiating quants and quals questions. The way you ask questions when we are doing an interview in qualitative research is not the same way you ask questions when you are doing quantitative research. Because the whole story of quants is that you as a researcher, you are the one who has to find the findings, not the respondents telling you. So you collect data so that you can go and find out whether whatever that you have hypothesized is working, is true, or is not true. But what I've seen is that the way you put your questions, they are more like you are asking the respondents to already answer your research questions instead of them answering your questionnaire questions, so that you can take that and use it to answer the research questions. Can I use someone's research instrument who doesn't mind me using theirs as an example of what not?
When you use it as an example, will you propose what it should be? Because then I wouldn't mind.
Okay, let me get yours. Okay, I'm going to just share my screen so that it's easier for me to navigate. So I won't see you if you raise your hand or anything. So if you can just screen. Did I even save yours?
No, it's not there.
Wait. Let me just switch off my video. You don't want to see me. You can look at the questionnaire. Okay, so we can all see this one.
Yes.
I'm sure you can already, who can tell me already by just me opening the first page, what is missing there? Anyone wants to tell me what's missing? So this is how it starts. So you are somebody, you are asked to complete a questionnaire. You get a link, you click on the link, and this is the questionnaire. What will be your first impression?
The covering letter?
Yes, the covering letter. So you need the letter, you need to introduce yourself, who you are, what you're doing, why you're sending people the questionnaire, and you need to give them comfort as well that you are observing all the ethical requirements. So I'll use this one in parallel with another one. Let me just use open this one. So you see the difference. So here you've got the first part, you've got the intro as to what this is all about. And then one of the ethics requirement, you have to allow, people need consent. So it's either you give them an option to click to consent, or you say that by them continuing to complete the questionnaire, it means they are consenting. You need to have that part. And then you start with your demographics, also depending on whether the study that you are doing really needs you to have demographics or not. Then if it's got no implications in terms of your findings, biases and stuff, then you don't need to have it. But if it does, in entrepreneurship space, it is it's common because people normally generally want to know because of the general bias that is there in South Africa in terms of people who own SMEs. So you'll generally need to kind of like say, are you able to accept people? Because when I'm not here, I can't see them. Okay. So yeah, so then you need to be able to do the cover page. When you are done, then the first part is your demographics, which so far no one really has got issues with that. But what I would like to just indicate in terms of gender, there's the sensitivity issues around having these as just binary, where you've got just male and female. Ethics has sent us an email asking us to make sure that those who collect demographics, they have to be aware of the sensitivity around that. So you can't put just male and female anymore. You need to put either prefer not to say or put other, but you can't just leave it as male and female. When you collect age, if you're collecting age, be cognizant of the age groups in South Africa, how they are grouped, so that you don't, if maybe you're gonna talk about youth somewhere, you don't mix up the age grouping in terms of where it cuts off for youth or something like that. There's that. Demographics, fine. Age of the business, if you are doing SMMEs, also be aware of normally what are how long SMMEs survive, and normally in GEMS and other reports, how they report the ranges, so that you are within what is commonly used. And why is that important is because it helps you when you do your comparison in chapter 5 of what you have versus what reports and literature says you are able to compare. But if you mix up, let's say normally they report between 1 and 3, 3 and 5, and you start from 1 up to 6, then it becomes difficult to compare. So those are things you just need to be cognizant of. They are not big things, it's just demographics, but it makes your life easier when you analyze. Okay, industry as well, don't make up your own, use the official ones, otherwise you're gonna get confused. So let's look at this one. Okay, so I hope this is also part of demographics. You are not planning to use it in more detail. Okay, I want to find those statements that I'm looking for that are not collecting data. When you do, if you are using Likert scale, always make sure that the positive side is got the higher order, and then the negative side is got the lower. So some, like Qualtrics, I think automatically it gives you strongly disagree as a 7 and strongly agree as a 1. Just make sure you reverse it. And why is that important is because it makes it easier when you interpret, when the people who agree with your statement of the specific constructs that you want to know about, it's easier to interpret. Let's say you're collecting data on confidence and you strongly agree, where people agree that they've got high levels of confidence is on the high side. You are able to summarize it easy to look as to whether people have low confidence or have high confidence. But if it's vice versa, then people with high confidence are on 1 and vice versa, then you need to play around with the interpretation, which is extra unnecessary work. So just check that. Let's look at this. So we're starting here. Let's assume that I think this will tell us question 8, the effect of microfinance loans on SME growth. So this will suggest that you've got a hypothesis that says microfinance loans affect or influences SME growth. So now you are trying to collect data on that. The first part is that you are preempting here. You are not supposed to preempt. You are already preempting your hypothesis here. If you were to put it in the right way here, you're supposed to be collecting data for one. So you've got microfinance loan as one variable. You've got SMME growth as another variable. So if this was qualitative research, you will ask the participant if to agree or disagree or whatever, to elaborate as to whether microfinance loans affect or influences SMME growth. And they'll tell you yes or no, or whatever, agree or disagree. That is their perception. That is not actual data. That is not measured. And you go further, you look at this statement. You say microfinance increases business efficiency. The quality of our services has improved due to microfinance. What are you doing here? You're asking them perceptions. Because you already have both your dependent and independent variable in one statement. So you are not collecting data so that you can go and test. And that's where most of you make the mistake. And that's where I want to talk about. That's what I want to talk about a bit. How will you phrase these statements? Microfinance increases business efficiency. If you were to change this, how will you change the statement? Rinki, I already had a chat with you about this. You want to give it a try? Is Rinki here?
Yes.
Yes, we've had a chat, me and you, about it. I've explained it very long, so I'm hoping you can be able to give it a try to see what is wrong with the statement. Microfinance increased business efficiency.
I think what I've learned is that we need not to use like a perception, like as you mentioned earlier on, to say we need not to get answers from our respondent. So meaning that this one I can try and change it to has microfinance increased. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Again, we don't have to put independent variable and the dependent variable together. It must be one of the two. So meaning that I can remove Dr. J.
Okay, maybe because it's not your study, you don't know which is which. Because you want to try to change this, because you are asking here a perception. So you ask people to agree or disagree if microfinance increases business efficiency. They will say, I strongly agree or strongly disagree, but you haven't measured anything. They're giving you their view.
So would it be better if it's like microfinance affects, I don't know, affects business efficiency, or is it one word or just the whole thing is just off?
It's just off because you've got two things. So if your research questions want to find out whether microfinance increases business efficiency, you cannot ask both of them at the same time. So what you need when you read literature, what you need to look at is to say, what is business efficiency? Let's say business efficiency, if people used to produce a product in 20 days, now they produce it in 10 days. So you can ask them about their business efficiency and ask them, compared maybe to the last 3 years, it depends how the scales you get, how they ask it. But what you want to check is the efficiency. Has there been improvement in the efficiency? So you ask the question about efficiency alone without adding the microfinance. So if our products now, we produce them in 10 days and we used to produce in 20 days, that is measured. That is actual data of efficiency. Okay. If we used to respond to, for an example, to our customer queries in 50 days, now we respond in 2 days. That is efficiency, and that is quantifiable. You can measure that. By the minute you say microfinance increases business efficiency, then now they're going to give you their views, not the facts that demonstrate that business efficiency has improved.
All right.
We understand. So let's use SME growth. Growth, everybody can understand growth. So let's use growth. If we got some loans, let's say in 2029, because your independent variable is loans, and then your dependent variable is growth. So if in 2019 we got loans, and then you ask me questions to say, how much loans you got, I give you the number we got, 2 million. You asked me several things about the loans, what I use it for, and all those kind of things. I give you factual number of figures about the loans. And then when we are done, then you ask now another question. In the same 2019 or between 2019 and 2020, how are your sales? Have they improved? You give me options maybe to say the sales. So sales is one of the indexes you can use to measure growth, isn't it? I respond to the growth, and I say sales have increased by 20% in the last year. And that is the year you've asked me already about loans. You asked me about profit, I respond about profit, what has happened is measurable. You ask me about maybe market share. I tell you about market share. All those are things that tells you about whether my business has grown. But you are not asking me to give you the answer to say micro loans have increased my growth. You ask me growth questions. You look for indices or things you can use to measure growth. You ask me those questions. When we are done, separately, you ask me about loans, and then you take the two data sets that you got. Then you now, as a researcher, you go and run your stats analysis and find out whether, as micro loans increased, did the sales increase? Then now you are the one doing the analysis. And then you do the findings. If you see I got micro loans, but the growth of the business stayed the same. In 2019, my revenue was 2 million. In 2018 was 2 million. And in 2020, it is still 2 million, but I got micro loans. So what does that mean? Then me as a researcher, I'm doing the analysis and I'm looking at this data, and this data tells me the micro loans hasn't influenced my business growth. But if I give you to say we injected this much money in the business in 2019, in January, in June, our sales started increasing and they continued to increase. And then at some stage, maybe we didn't have loans anymore and the business growth started going down. That is data that's telling me that the micro loans have got an effect or not an effect on my growth. But you are not asking the SME owner to say, as micro loans, he might be telling you the truth, but that is not measurable. We view it as qualitative and as a perception. So in Quants, you want something that is measurable. I don't know whether that makes sense. I'll go to another questionnaire that does it right, but I just wanted to first show you to say you have to be careful that a statement can't have both the independent and dependent variable, because if you do that, then you are now asking my perception. You are not asking me data that proves that something has happened.
Sorry, Dr. Gray. Hello?
Yes.
Hello? Just a question based on what was just now there. You know, one of the questions, I think is question 6. I don't know now but the one that says something about, the business has become more profitable, or the business has increased revenue. So is that phrased correctly, or I just need to tweak?
Yeah, that one, you see this one, number 6, it only talks about revenue. It doesn't talk about the loans. So this then is phrased right, because then it talks about just the revenue. But the minute you say micro loans have increased the revenue, if you put a statement like that, then you go to perception. But at the same time, as much as this is now not a perception, because then we are measuring it differently, sometimes it helps to quantify it and use literature. There's a lot of scales out there where you'll find they will either put revenue to say in the last 3 years, instead of just having maybe strongly agree and disagree, then you've got range here that it has decreased by 10%, it has stayed the same, it has increased by 10%, it has increased, nothing has happened, it has increased by 20%. You are quantifying it more, then you have more useful data than me just saying to you it has increased. How much has it increased? And that's where quantifying and quantitative analysis comes in. You will still analyze this and get something, but it's not going to be as rich of information that you get if you have quantified this increase of this revenue.
All right.
We understand the difference. Even like the customer base has increased, it's fine. You are not combining it with the independent variable, but is it not going to be more beneficial if you know how much the customer base has increased?
Makes sense. Thank you.
So from 5, 6, 7, these ones are right, because we are not combining them with the independent variable, but they can be better.
All right, thank you.
It's still right. You're still measuring whether it has increased or not, but it can be better if you quantify it more. I think I had asked me questions while I'm looking. There's someone that I'm thinking of that had something like that. You don't have questions, you're good. I'm just trying to find someone's instrument that I think is that. So you see this one, this guy was measuring human impact of human factors on youth entrepreneurship success. I just want to show you where he has quantified it nicely. You see something like this. So he's putting some numbers into it that gives him more information than people just telling him that our annual revenue has increased or has decreased, the jobs full-time has increased or not. So this measures growth, but then he quantified it a bit more. And this gives you more insight in terms of what you analyze than just when a person says, I agree it has increased or it has decreased. And all these things, you find them from literature. If you read enough and you use thesis and check at the back, you will find these things. And this guy's thesis should be online as well, and we can check it if you want. What else is here that you can? For an example here, it's asking about BDS programs the person has participated on. You could have asked and say, have you participated? And the person just say yes. But you get more info to get as to how much or how many times the person has participated. So you always have to think about how can I get more richer insights. As much as it's Quants, we're not really that big on rich insights like Quals, but you still want to get as much as you can, even if it's quantitative. Okay, ask me questions. Does it make sense that the difference?
Yes, it does.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, let me go to the coaching one for the coaching guys so that you don't feel left out. I think I'm gonna use yours now. So Rinky is quiet, so she's not happy with what I'm doing.
I'm not happy with mine. At least I've tried to review it.
Yeah, we just have others for learning.
No, it's fine. You can go ahead, Dr. J. I'm just joking.
So you see here, so Rinky is looking at managerial coaching as an independent variable and is looking at work performance as a dependent variable. She made exactly the same mistake like Nevakazi. He's got managerial coaching as the dependent variable and it's got work performance in the same statement. Managerial coaching is the most effective way influence work performance. This is the research question. It's not supposed to be the questionnaire question, because this is the question you're going to answer when you are done collecting the data. So when you say this, the person is just going to agree, and then it doesn't help you much because it's a perception. If you want perceptions, you do qualitative studies. Then people can tell you their stories, then you don't need to measure anything. But if you want to measure and quantify it, then you need to ask people about managerial coaching. How many sessions of managerial coaching you've had, what kind of managerial coaching you had, what are the interventions that happen, collect that data separately. When we are done, then you ask the person, maybe they got their coaching for a year or 2 years. After that 2 years, how did your work performance change? If they've got key indicators in terms of what they get measured on and work, do you deliver more projects now? Do you do whatever the work performance requirements are? And then you ask that separately. When we are done, you take the data of managerial coaching, you take the data of work performance, you put it in a software, you analyze it, and then it tells you whether as the activities for coaching increased, did the performance of the employee increase, or it stays the same, and then you make your findings. As they continued to get more advanced coaching, did they started now getting promotions at work because they are now performing better? You ask those things separately, and then you analyze and you make the decision. So the minute you've got both your independent and dependent variable in your questionnaire question, then you know you are not doing it right. And also, you know, you are making up your own questions. You did not use literature guide. Are we fine on the perception questions before I move?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yes, Dr. J. It means I have to go back to my questionnaire and review my questions. Now I understand.
Okay. Pumza. Okay.
Hi, Doc. I'm struggling to hear, but what I picked up, I'm kind of following. I'm still stuck. My screen is still on microfinance. But I think I'm picking up what you're saying. So I'll have to just listen again. But what I'm hearing is that you're saying you shouldn't have dependent and independent variables in one question.
Yes.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay, great. You have that. So the independent and dependent variable will be together in your objectives, in your research questions, and in your hypothesis. But when you get to the questionnaire, then you break it down. You ask one variable at a time, questions about one variable at a time. And then also remember, if it's not factual data they are giving you, if you are using Likert scales, then you ask more than one question for each construct. The minimum is 3. But if people are giving you factual data, let's say you're asking people their salaries, then you don't have to ask 3 questions about salaries, because a salary is a factual thing, it doesn't change. But if you ask people about their feelings, then that's where then you need to be able to do your validity of the questions you're asking, because one question might be understood differently. So you need to ask 3 questions for the same thing, so that you are able to test the validity and the reliability of that. So you need to have what we call multi-item scales. In general, that's when you use Likert scales. But if you're asking people things like whether you are a female or male, you don't need to ask me 3 times whether I'm a female or male, because it's a factual thing. I know it's definitely a specific answer. But if you're asking me how I feel about innovation in my company, it might change. So you need to ask me, or I might misunderstand the question. So you need to ask me multiple questions on the same thing. And then that helps with validity and reliability of those scales. Else I wanted to highlight.
Dr. Jake, I want to go back to the scale. You said if you're using these strongly agree, strongly disagree, which one should actually come first and which one should come last?
So if you're asking about, let's say, confidence, you want the people with higher confidence to be either strongly agree to be 7, and then those who don't have confidence to be at, when they don't agree, to be at 1. Because when you interpret that, it means the higher the scale, the higher the confidence. It's easier to remember that.
Oh,
so you have to reverse it. So if you reverse it, then the person who's got high confidence will have a 1, and the one with low confidence will have a 7. And then in terms of the meaning of ordered data, then it does not make sense. So you want to simplify the interpretation.
okay. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let me see what I want to. Okay, so we are fine with phrasing the questions. Try to find skills that are already there. You'll save yourself a lot of time. Because if you make up your own questions, the likelihood is that when you pilot, you might find that some of the things don't work together. So try to do your questions. Sometimes you won't get them as exactly for your construct as they are. You need to tweak them, but you benefit from the structure of the questions if you use something that is being used. When I ask you to send me your questionnaires so that I can review them, please don't go to distribute. This is where you go when you are sending to people you want to respond, because when I get this link, I can't review your instrument. I have to complete it like a respondent, and that defeats the purpose. So when you send an instrument, your instrument to me, what you need to do, you need to go on to download. So you go to tools, and then there you go to import and export. And then you see export survey to Word. And then once you click that, then you come here and say, use question numbers, use record values. What this does, when you download it, it makes sure that you are able to see whether did you code a strongly agree as a 7, you didn't mistakenly code it as a 5, and vice versa. But if you don't do that, because then it will come plain, it won't show the code, then you might find, I've seen some of people who go collect data, because what Qualtrics does, it automatically number what you are doing. So if you've put your options, strongly agree to disagree, you delete one, then you add another one, it will add it as an 8. Or if you've moved things around, you delete, you find that you've got a strongly agree that is now a 44 when your scale is supposed to be 1 to 7. So what you do before you send to me, you export it. And then it will open. So this is the exported one. Okay, so when it opens, it shows you if you have done proper blocking of your blocks for your different constructs, then it will show you how many questions are under each block. And then we are able to see whether you've asked enough questions for each. And then after that, then we are able to come. So, okay, this is the intro part that I was talking about that you need to have. And then we are able to come and see here as to what you coded it. These numbers get automatically allocated as you add your options, depending on which one you added first. And sometimes they are not in the sequence and the format you want. And then we are able to go back and then change them. But you need to be able first to download it so that we are able to see that the coding is the way that you want it. So you see you've got all this codes. If, for an example, here you had a 55 instead of having one, let's say you had a 55 here instead of having a 1 that you want. If you don't fix it before you collect data, you will have a lot of work after you've collected because you need to fix it after. So to fix it on Qualtrics, what you do, you go in here, and then you click on the specific question that is not coded right. Let's choose one. Let's say it's this one. And then when you come this side, you are able to go to the recode part. So you've got this that says recode values. Then we are able to edit here and put the right codes the way you want it if it was not done right. So you have to tick record, and then we are able to change it here according to the way you want. So that when your data comes back, 1 means the same thing for everything, and 2 means the same thing. There's no mixing up, and then you end up not being sure what was what, and then you have to clean the data afterwards, and that takes longer than if you just fix the instrument itself. So that is one thing. And when you are not comfortable with creating a new instrument because of the settings and stuff, always try to use the templates that they have. So when you go to create new projects, you can always play around and check these different templates they're suggesting for you. And then you can use that to work on it and just edit to put your own questions. It makes it easier if you are not that comfortable with with Qualtrics, because then when you open it, it will already, for an example, have some of the things done for you, and all we have to do is to just edit some of them. Let's create this one. I hope I'm not showing you things that you know. So for an example, this one, it already has a block that where you will do your instructions. So you do your cover letter here. It's set up already for you. And then you go into the different questions to change them to what you want them to be. You can always play around to decide whether you want it to give you suggested options, or you edit and put your own. But this, using the templates, makes it easier. But if you are comfortable with Qualtrics, then you can start afresh on a blank questionnaire and then type everything and set up everything yourself. But if you are not comfortable, just go at the bottom and look at the templates and then use that. It will save you a lot of time and go quicker. And then some of the things, if you don't like let's say they put page breaks and you don't like that, then you can just get rid of it and change it so that is the way you want it to be. And then if you just say they've given you all the questions with multiple choice, you want to change some, and then you just go change the question, but it's quicker than when you create from scratch. Qualtrics automatically save things. As you change things, it automatically saves it. So you don't have to worry about losing stuff. Any questions on the setting up of you? So don't create extra work for yourself. Don't go and do the whole questionnaire on Word and then now take it and go and retype it to Qualtrics. Do it once as you learn, do it on Qualtrics and get it all done. There's a lot of tutorials online on YouTube. On Qualtrics, some of them I've shared the links with you that you can use to teach yourself Qualtrics. It's an easy software similar to SurveyMonkey, but you get more functionalities in terms of the academic things that you are trying to achieve.
Dr. Sheikh?
Yes.
I think for me, I spend a lot of time trying to do my questionnaire on Word. So yeah, I wasted a lot of time on the Word document. So I really appreciate your conversation, our conversation in terms of what we need to do. And again, I appreciate what you have helped us with today. I think moving forward, definitely it has already opened my eyes. Thank you so much.
Okay. Anything else you wanted, maybe specifically to ask, or you hoped I will talk to and I did not? Because I'm just guessing based on what I've been receiving as to what is it you're struggling with. There might be other things you're struggling with that I'm not aware of.
For me, another thing, I think it was about developing my own question from the scratch. I don't know whether I was not aware or I was not sure, because I ended up developing my own question, starting afresh, and that's where I did many things wrong. So,
Yeah.
but after you explained to me in terms of the independent variable and the dependent variable, also the issue of perception, then it was like more clearer for me.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I want to save you the time. I've seen students that go collect the perception questions, and then when they come back, they try to analyze. They realize that they don't have a dependent variable. They've got just one thing. And when you've got it like that, the only thing you can do is descriptive stats, where you summarize that so many people said this, so many percentage said this, and that's all you can do. There's nothing more analysis you can do from that. So you need it separate so that you are able to regress the independent variable on the dependent variable.
I have a question.
Yes, Katie?
So yes, thank you. I agree with everything that Rinki has said. I just want to make sure that I'm not sure if I didn't understand it properly. Are you saying that when we formulate questions for our research, we can get, are you referring to templates that's on Qualtrics? Or are you saying there are other sources that we can go to that could perhaps help us speed up that process? Because I also, formulated my questions. I tried to, and I'm not sure if it's totally right. So did I misunderstand? I'm not sure if you understand what I'm asking.
Yes. So what you if you formulate your own questions, you're going to have a lot of problems.
Yes.
Because at master's level, you don't have the time to because if one of your contributions was to develop scales for specific construct, yes. But at master's level, you don't have that luxury. So what you do, you go on to, I know for coaching, because most people have been doing coaching research on using qualitative method. You will struggle to find an instrument set up like straightforward to just take it as it is. The entrepreneurship guys, because the Masters in Entrepreneurship has been focusing mainly on quantitative research. If you play around the library white space on the thesis repository, you'll find a lot of instruments that you can just take as it is and use it, because at the back of the thesis, you find those research instruments. And normally on chapter 3, people will reference as to whose scales were those. And then we are able to go to that specific scholar or author and see the instrument and adapt it for yourself. But with coaching, one of your contribution is the fact that there's a gap in quantitative research. So one of your contribution is contributing into the quantitative research gap. So what you will need to do when you read literature, if you are lucky enough, you will find a few theses that maybe has scales, maybe from other universities. But as far as I know, my predecessor was more focused on qualitative research. So most of the VETs, MMBAC thesis will have qualitative questions. But you can check maybe repository from other universities, maybe that focus on quants, maybe you might find, because the easier way to find an instrument is at the back in the appendix of a thesis, PhD or master's. But the other way, if there's not a lot in terms of the thesis, is when you read your articles, when you do your literature review, when you read a paragraph that tells you about, for an example, leadership coaching success, you pay attention on those things that they are saying, and you take those statements that they give you, that they say, this is how a coaching leadership success looks like. You take those and then formulate the questions using that. But some of the articles, they tell you in their methodology sections as to how what questions they asked, and then you just take them and use them. But if you don't find them as kind of like spoon feeding straightforward that you can eat it as it is, you just need to play with it to change it to suit your research. But then if it's already asked maybe for other construct, then you benefit from the structure, then you just tweak certain things. Let's say the questions were about leadership success, or they were about business coaching. You want to focus on leadership coaching, and then you just tweak the business part to be the leadership part of your study. The template I was talking about on Qualtrics is template in terms of just formulating the instrument itself, but the questions come from the literature that we are reading. The questionnaire questions, you use the ones that you get from the literature that you are using. So I discourage people at master's level who are doing quants from formulating their own questionnaire questions, because that's where a lot of mistakes come in. And normally, especially if you also don't have a good quants a supervisor, they won't pick it up until late, that what you collected is not going to help you answer your research questions. So first template, in terms of not wasting time on Word, use the Qualtrics template. Second, you don't formulate your own questions unless you've got time to pilot your own questions and see if they are valid and the skills are reliable. Otherwise, use other people's questions. You'll find a lot of questions for coaching in psychology assessment tools. Check those, you'll find some of the questions will work for you, and then you use that.
Dr. J, so I tried to search for existing research instruments for SMEs, and my biggest, obviously, then I actually struggled to find, but maybe my issue is that I was not looking on the VETS library specifically. I was just looking wider than that, but I couldn't find anything. But my biggest concern was, how do you know if this was good quality, you know? Because the two that I found, I really found that I just couldn't relate to what this guy was trying to collect. It was done in Nairobi, Kenya. And I just couldn't. I didn't know whether it would be throwing off my own research altogether. So is there a way to see which ones were graded well or not?
If what you do, you check their data analysis. What they've analyzed using that instrument, what they've collected and how they've analyzed it. And that will give you an idea whether it will work for you. And also as you read, because this is a skill you're supposed to develop, if you've read enough, you start having an eye, you start seeing when something is not good quality. Because, you know, like for example, now I've explained to you that you don't have in Quants independent and dependent variable in one questionnaire question unless you are collecting perception data that you just want to summarize into descriptive stats. So now when you see a thesis that's got that, you already see, this is not gonna give me what I want. You already know what kind of questions to look for. I think I've shared with all of you the rubric that I use for MMA and VC in terms of a good quality research instrument. And I think it's also in some of the slides that I did in class. You use those things to start having an understanding what is good and what is not good. Because the sad thing about thesis is that it's not peer reviewed. So you will find that sometimes you take something and then it was not good. Maybe this person just got 50%, you don't know. But you need to have that eye to be able to check, is this going to give me what I want? What did this person analyze and do with the data he collected with this instrument? Is it similar to what I'm looking for? And then you make your discretion from there.
All right, thank you.
Okay. If you don't have any questions anymore, then go and design your research instrument. Is it clearer? Are we all happy? Is it clearer now?
Much clearer. Thank you.
Okay. So yeah, let's go in.
I'm good. Thank you,
Dr.
Dr.
J,
Yes.
I think the idea of searching for instruments, it will help, because I tried searching some of them when you directed me to do so. I did find some of the instruments that are related, but even though some of them, they are not more related on, like coaching is, according to me, it's a bit scarce to yeah, specifically for quants. So when I was like surfing for the instrument, I did find some, but it is really difficult to find such instruments. But at the end of the day, it does help to surf, because you come across with some of the instrument where you can just steal maybe few words or terms that can assist you in your question. As you're saying, we don't have like to develop very new questions from the scratch, but you can steal some of the terms, maybe, to put it so, on some of the questions that you want to use or to develop.
Yeah. Some of them, you just steal the structure of the sentence, how they phrase things. And then if it was a phrase about innovation, but you want to ask about maybe efficiency, then you change it around to suit that, but you steal the structure of the, let's say they've got 4 questions on innovation, and you see the way it's phrased, it will work maybe for risk-taking, for an example, and then you just tweak it to work for that. So you have to be innovative. That's what research is all about. You don't expect to find things put for you, food with the fork and the knife all together. Sometimes you find the fork and there's no food, and then you must figure out where the food is. So it's just how research works. And also the searching, when you search, because I've had a lot of students saying, oh, there's no literature for what I'm doing. And what they do, they go search using, if a person is doing, looking at the influence of microloans on SMME growth, you want to find articles that's got that full statement, you are not going to find it. That's why we've got what we call keywords. Those become your search words. You can search microfinance independently, you search loans independently, you search growth independently, you said, and then within those things, you will find components that you as a researcher, you will combine now to make the story you want to make. But you will hardly find the whole story in one article. Your role is to integrate. You find innovation in article 1, you find risk-taking in article 2, you find managerial coaching in article 5, you find public sector in article 7, you integrate those things and make your story. But if you're looking to write that whole statement on Google search and you think you'll find the full story, then why are you doing it if the full story is there? So your role is to integrate, find the pieces and integrate it. And it's the same thing with the instrument. You find the pieces, you integrate it. Okay, that's about an hour. We can call it a day. I think, Siviwe, you wanted to stay behind for your chapter 2, no?
Yes, Dr. J.
Okay. Let me stop the recording. I will share with you this recording, those who want to go back to it. Okay, enjoy your evening.